It's just a beautiful day in my cabin in the woods, drinking maple syrup. I'm being attacked by a moose! Hey, we should just blame Canada. Welcome to Canada, the second largest country in the world. Or did someone say the 51st United States of America? If Canada got added to the United States, it actually wouldn't be the 51st state, it would be the 60th, since there are 10 Canadian provinces. You only need to know about a few of them, most notably Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia. The rest of them kind of look like this the entire year. So why would anyone want to live in Canada when they could just move to America? Well, actually, Canada has been inhabited just as long as the rest of the Americas. Indigenous people have lived in Canada for over 14,000 years, and many of them live in the northern remote parts of the country today. Fast forward to around 1000 AD, and Leif Erikson and his crew of Vikings landed in modern-day Canada, around Newfoundland. This marked the first time that a European had arrived in the New World. However, the new land remained virtually unexplored until 1497, when French explorer Jacques Cartier explored the modern-day St. Lawrence Bay. More French explorers and settlers would begin to arrive in the region in hopes of becoming a part of the thriving fur trade business. Now, fur was making a lot of money, and it wasn't long before the British wanted a part of it. British settlements began to spring up in Canada during the 1500s and 1600s, leading to several armed conflicts between British and French settlers, including the Beaver Wars. But then in 1754, some random guy named George Washington started the French and Indian War. After 7 years of fighting all around the world, the war ended in a decisive British victory, with the British coming to control almost all of Canada by 1763. After the 1783 Treaty of Paris that ended the Revolution in the neighboring United States, the Canadian-US border was set basically how it is today. But then the War of 1812 broke out between Britain and the United States, with major battles occurring inside of Canada, including a US invasion of Canada. Over the years, Canada began to grow, with many European immigrants, mostly from Ireland and Scotland, moving to the country in search of a new life in Canada's vast lands. And over time, Canada began to receive more and more autonomy from the British Empire before gaining full independence from Britain in 1982. From all this history of British rule and immigration, it sounds like Canada and the United States share a lot of the same history and even the longest border in the world. So what makes them different? Well, for one, Canadians are known for their friendliness. I really wouldn't expect someone to be that nice to me in New York City. They also have a major addiction to hockey, a sport that's just starting to gain major traction in the United States. Though there's some pretty massive differences, so why does newly inaugurated US President Donald Trump want to annex Canada? Well, for one, the US and Canada have always remained very close economic and government ties. They are both extremely important in one another's economies. It also helps that around 90% of Canadians only live 100 miles from the US border. They aren't really as separated as you thought. And most importantly is current political turmoil. In recent years, Canada has faced a major cost of living crisis, with visits to things like the local food pantry exploding by over 100%. As a result, there's been a loss of confidence in the Canadian government, which has forced Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign in January 2025. Canada would also be a major addition to the United States thanks to its immense natural resources. Canada's land is home to copious amounts of gold, lumber, and oil. And don't forget about maple syrup, of which Canada produces around 70% of the world's supply. Even though union with the United States could sound enticing, I don't think many Canadians would want to give up their independence. Some Canadians are even trying to form their own country. Remember all that history of Britain and France both ruling Canada at some point? Well, French speakers in the province of Quebec have been trying to push for independence for over 60 years. Today, around 40% of Canadians living in Quebec are in favor of independence. You don't really need to worry about something going wrong with the independence movement. The worst thing that the Canadians might do to each other is call each other a few mean words. You should definitely consider a visit to Canada, but remember, this is something that you cannot do just in one day. Canada is massive and takes days to travel across, so choose a region that you'd like to visit, whether it's the east with its major cities like Toronto, the Central Plains, or the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. If you can't handle the cold, I would not recommend going in the winter. Temperatures can get extremely low during the winter, and major portions of Canada lie within the Arctic Circle and receive minimal amounts of daylight during the winter. Wow, Canada sure is busy, maybe a part of the United States one day. We'll have to see about that. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and learned something new about Canada, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for our next tropical trip to the Cayman Islands.